Skill Tree Unlocked, The Gamer's Guide to Leveling Up in Real Life. Published by Crafter's Bench Books. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without written permission from the publisher, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical articles and reviews. For information or permission requests, contact the publisher at skilltreeunlocked.com. First edition, July 2026, printed in the United States of America. Disclaimer. This book is designed to provide information and motivation to readers. It is sold with the understanding that the author and publisher are not engaged to render medical, psychological, legal, financial, or other professional services. The physical exercises, nutritional advice, and mental frameworks described in this book are for educational purposes only. If medical or expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional should be sought. The author and publisher shall have neither liability nor responsibility to any person or entity with respect to any loss, damage, or injury caused or alleged to be caused directly or indirectly by the instructions contained in this book. To my family tree, for giving me the strongest roots a player could ask for. To gamers everywhere, press start. Main menu, Introduction, Playing Without a HUD. System Codex, Entry, 000, The Invisible Grind. You have been playing the most complex, high-stakes role-playing game ever designed, but you are playing it completely blind. In a standard simulation, your heads-up display, HUD, provides immediate, undeniable proof of your progression. You have a visible health bar to monitor your vitality, an experience tracker to measure your daily grind, and a sprawling skill tree mapping out exactly how to upgrade your class. You know when you are leveling up because the system tells you so. In this system, the HUD has been disabled by default. This is why life feels like a repetitive walking animation in a low-level zone. You log thousands of hours at your job, in the gym, or navigating the complexities of your relationships, and the screen remains blank. Because the progression is invisible, you assume it isn't happening. You view your daily efforts as isolated, exhausting chores, completely unaware that you are passively accumulating massive amounts of experience points, XP. You can spend years cultivating the breathwork, flexibility, patience, and physical control of a master yoga instructor, or log thousands of hours balancing on ladders in awkward positions near live, high-voltage electrical systems, and the system will never flash a level up notification on your screen. Because this progression is invisible, you might assume that time spent on the mat only matters in a yoga studio, or that the composure developed in the field only applies to electrical work. But the highest-level players, the grandmaster chess players, improv performers, martial artists, master chefs, and senior developers, understand the system's hidden architecture. They know that no skill exists in a vacuum. The deep relaxation and physical control forged through yoga seamlessly cross-pollinate into the rest of your build. They improve your ability to balance on a ladder in an uncomfortable position, consciously regulate your heart rate, and remain completely composed while working inches away from a live electrical panel. Furthermore, those exact same qualities can permanently upgrade your baseline attractiveness, public speaking, decision-making, and performance under pressure. Just as a martial artist's discipline strengthens their focus in the boardroom, a chess player's tactical foresight prevents a business failure, and an improv performer's adaptability improves communication. The XP gained from one branch always feeds the others. Skill Tree Unlocked is your official patch update. This manual is designed to reveal the underlying code, turn your HUD back on, and show you that no action exists in a vacuum. Every node you unlock, from the deep roots of your character to the visible fruit of your legacy, is part of a unified cross-disciplinary build. The map is simple, yet absolute. The roots, hardware, your physical and mental baseline. You can't run next-gen software on a broken console. The trunk, the OS, universal skills like problem-solving and communication that carry the weight of everything else you do. The branches, the classes, the specialized career paths and passions you choose to pursue. The leaves, micro-skills, the daily actionable techniques you stack together to create synergy perks. The fruit, the loot, the tangible milestones, passive auras of confidence, and the legacy you leave for the next generation. The stuck loop ends today. It is time to audit your stats, map your trajectory, and take manual control of your progression. Your skill tree is waiting. Press Start. Chapter 1. The Character Sheet, Assessing Your Base Stats. System Codex, Entry 001. Warning: comparing your Level 1 character sheet to a Level 50 player's endgame build results in a severe despair debuff. Every Master Tier build begins with a blank interface. Acknowledge your current parameters without judgment to initiate progression. Welcome to Level 1. If you boot up a brand new RPG today, Level 1 is the most exciting part of the game. The map is completely hidden by the fog of war, your inventory is empty, and your skill tree is a massive web of locked potential. You don't feel ashamed that you only have a wooden sword. You feel excited about the legendary gear you are going to earn. But in real life, Level 1 feels terrifying. When you decide it is time to change your career, fix your health, or finally pursue a creative path, you aren't looking at a blank screen. You are looking at the Level 50 players around you. You see the master electrician running their own crew, the athlete with a flawless physique, or the entrepreneur who just sold their second business. Looking at their endgame builds while holding your Level 1 wooden sword triggers an immediate psychological debuff. You feel like you are too late, too far behind, or fundamentally broken. You aren't broken. You just haven't spent your points yet. Before the system allows you to accept new quests, it requires a brutally honest inventory of your avatar's current capabilities. You cannot optimize a build if you lie about your starting stats. The Respec Protocol. Before we open your character sheet, we need to clear the sunk cost fallacy from your operating system. Many players fall into the trap of assuming their past choices have permanently locked their build. They think, I just spent 10 years working in corporate finance. I can't suddenly put points into the physical fitness tree or learn woodworking. It's too late. In modern gaming, if you don't like how your character is playing, you visit a hub and initiate a respec, respecialization. The game refunds all the points you spent and lets you reassign them from scratch. Life has a respec mechanic. Those 10 years in corporate finance weren't wasted. You didn't lose the underlying XP, the discipline, the analytical logic, the ability to read a room. You get to keep all of those passive buffs. You are simply reallocating your future daily action points into a new branch. You are never locked in. But to respec, you have to know what hardware you are currently running. Auditing the roots, your hardware. Your roots are your base stats. This is the hardware that runs the software of your life. You cannot outthink a biological deficit. If you are chronically sleep-deprived and eating garbage, your avatar has a permanent, fatigued debuff. No amount of motivational quotes, productivity apps, or high-level business strategy will fix a depleted health bar. If the hardware is overheating, the software crashes. It is time to audit your baseline. Score yourself honestly from 1 to 10 in the 4 core root attributes: vitality, max HP/constitution, your sleep hygiene and joint health. How much physical damage can your body take before breaking down or getting sick? Stamina, the energy tank, your cardiovascular baseline and diet. Do you crash at 2 p.m., or do you have fuel left for side quests after your 9 to 5? Willpower, mental armor/mana, your frustration tolerance. How long can you grind through a tedious, boring task before you lose your temper or quit? Perception, HUD bandwidth, your ability to focus. Is your internal screen cluttered with notifications and anxiety, or can you lock onto a single target? How to read your score: 1 to 3, critical system warning. You are actively taking damage. This stat requires immediate intervention before you attempt any high-level goals. 4 to 6, the casual grind. You are surviving, but you are carrying unnecessary debuffs. 7 to 8, the optimized player. Your hardware is running smoothly and supporting your daily quests. 9 to 10, master tier. You have bulletproofed this biological system. Look at your numbers. If your vitality is a 3, you now know exactly why you keep failing that level 20 leadership quest at work. Your avatar literally does not have the HP to sustain the stress. Do not judge the numbers. The numbers are just data. They are the map that tells you exactly where your next few skill points need to go. Establish save point. System Codex. Entry 002. Action required. Progress will be lost if the avatar does not establish a save state. You cannot measure XP accumulation if you do not record your starting baseline. Please finalize your character sheet. In any game, if you power down the console before hitting a save point, you lose everything. You wake up back at the beginning of the level, forced to fight the exact same enemies all over again. Reading this book without writing down your baseline is playing without a memory card. To officially generate your character, you need to log 3 things. 1. Name your starting class. This requires radical honesty. What is your role right now? If you are a student pulling all-nighters, you are the exhausted scholar. If you are working a physical job to pay the bills while dreaming of starting a business, you are the grunt. Do not use your dream title here. Name exactly who you are today. 2. Log your root stats. Transfer your 1 to 10 scores from the hardware audit. 3. Define your endgame build. If you max out your skill tree, who do you become at level 50? This is your compass. Do you want to be a master electrician and mentor, or a tech founder and athlete? Name the hybrid class you are grinding toward. Note, you will fill out the official master character sheet located in Appendix C. System locked. Take a breath. You just documented your level 1 baseline. The fog of war is still thick, and you don't have all the gear you need yet. But the invisible grind is over. Your HUD is officially turned on. Every action you take from this second forward is banking real XP. Your character is saved. You are ready to step into the tutorial zone. Chapter 2. The Tutorial Zone. System Codex Entry 003 Entering Tutorial Zone. Warning: ego shields must be disabled to acquire new skills. High levels of pride will actively block XP absorption. Prepare for mandatory failure. You've built your character sheet. You know your stats. Now, the game drops you into the starting area. In any great RPG, before you are set loose in the open world to fight dragons or command armies, you are placed in the tutorial zone. It is a safe, enclosed environment designed for one specific purpose: to let you figure out the controls without dying. You don't fight the final boss here. You hit a wooden training dummy until you figure out which button makes your character swing their sword. You are going to look clumsy. You are going to miss the target. And that is exactly what is supposed to happen. But in real life, adults hate the tutorial zone, embracing the noob phase, the ego death. The biggest barrier to entry for any new skill isn't a lack of talent or a lack of time. It is ego. If you are 30, 40, or 50 years old, you are likely already a high-level player in your specific domain. You might be a level 40 manager, a level 35 parent, or a level 50 accountant. You are used to feeling competent. People ask you for answers and you have them. But when you decide to pick up a guitar for the first time, step onto a Brazilian jiu-jitsu mat, or try to learn Python, you are instantly stripped of that high-level armor. You are level 1 all over again. Your hands feel stupid. You don't understand the vocabulary. You are officially a noob. Most people can't handle the ego hit. They try the new skill once, feel embarrassed that they aren't instantly great at it, and quit. They retreat to the zones where they already feel safe and powerful. If you want to level up, you have to grant yourself permission to be a beginner again. Ego is an XP blocker. You have to be willing to look foolish while you are figuring out the controls. The grind of the apprenticeship. Before you are ever trusted to design a massive commercial lighting system, you have to spend hundreds of hours pulling wire, sweeping job sites, and bending conduit. Before you can write a best-selling novel, you have to write thousands of terrible, clunky sentences. This is the grind of the apprenticeship. It is repetitive, unglamorous, and absolutely essential. The tutorial zone is not about glory. It is about building muscle memory. You are banking the raw hours required to turn a conscious, difficult action into an automatic, effortless reflex. The core gameplay loop. Every game is built on a core loop, the foundational sequence of actions the player repeats to progress. To escape the tutorial zone and start banking real-world XP, you must master this 4-step loop. 1. Attempt. Press the button. You cannot learn by just reading the manual. You have to execute the action. Go to the gym, write the code, or strike up the conversation. 2. Fail and assess. Take the hit. You will fail. The weight will be too heavy, the code will break, or the conversation will get awkward. Do not panic. Instead of letting your ego flare up and rage quitting, look at the combat log. What exactly went wrong? Did you lose your balance? Did you miss a semicolon? 3. Adjust. Tweak the approach. Use the data from your failure to change your strategy. Widen your stance. Rewrite the line of code. Ask a better question. 4. Succeed and bank XP. Land the hit. You finally execute the action correctly. You feel that satisfying click of competence. The XP is banked, your stats increase by a fraction of a percent, and you are ready for the next attempt. This loop is the engine of your skill tree. Once you strip away your ego and accept that failure is just data, the game becomes incredibly fun. You aren't failing. You are just figuring out the mechanics. The quest board, your first missions. System Codex entry 004. Welcome to the hub. To prevent choice paralysis, the system utilizes a gated sandbox model. You must complete 2 sequential tutorial quests to clear your interface. Once completed, the open quest board will unlock, allowing you to choose your next targets. You understand the core loop, and you've dropped your ego. Now it is time to actually put points on the board. If a game drops you into a massive open world with 0 direction, you get overwhelmed and quit. To prevent that, we are starting with a gated sandbox. You have 2 mandatory quests you must complete in exact order to clean up your real-world UI. Once those are done, the world opens up. Here is your first mission log. Phase 1, the mandatory tutorial. Do not skip ahead. You cannot accurately track your time or try a new skill if your environment is chaotic and you don't have a baseline routine to recover your HP. Complete these in order. Quest 1. Purge the inventory. The affordance audit. In games, you can't pick up high-tier loot if your backpack is full of useless junk. In life, you cannot build a new class if your environment is full of friction. The UI of your life, using affordances. In video game design, an affordance is a visual cue in the user interface, UI, that tells the player exactly what an object does. A glowing ledge signals you can climb it. A red barrel signals it will explode if shot. You must design your physical environment to create real-world affordances that make the right choices frictionless and the wrong choices incredibly difficult. High affordance, lowering friction. If you want to put XP into your physical routes, leaving your kettlebells and weighted flow ropes right in the middle of your living room floor makes the action immediate. The environment begs you to level up. Low affordance, adding friction. If a bad habit is draining your stats, you delete the affordance entirely. You don't just try to watch less TV, you unplug the screen and put the remote in another room. You don't try to eat better. You purge the junk food from the inventory so you cannot accidentally click on it. The reward, +10. Focus unlocks the clear mindset buff. Quest 2. Establish the save point, the root routine. You need a safe place to heal and save your progress. You cannot survive the open world without a functional save point. The action. Establish one non-negotiable morning or evening routine and execute it for 7 days straight. It only needs to be 10 minutes. Drink a glass of water before looking at a screen, do a stretching routine, or journal. The reward, +15 stamina, unlocks base vitality. Phase 2. The open quest board. System unlocked. You have cleared your inventory and established your save point. You now have full autonomy. Choose your next missions based on your real-life schedule and immediate needs. You must clear all 4 of these side quests before you can face the final boss of the tutorial zone. Quest 3. The XP audit. The mission. You cannot level up if you don't know where your hours, XP, are actually going. The action. For 3 consecutive days, log exactly how you spend every single hour. You will immediately see the gap between your level 1 class and your endgame build. The reward, +20 logic, unlocks the self-awareness passive. Quest 4. Equip the starting loadout. The mission. A craftsman is only as good as their tools. Upgrading your gear reduces the friction of learning active skills. The action. Identify one tool you need for your endgame build and acquire it. Buy the right running shoes, download the audio software, or purchase a professional set of wire strippers. The reward. Massive friction reduction for future grinding. Quest 5. Clear a level 1 tutorial, ego death. The mission. Prove you are willing to be a beginner. The action. Attempt one small, completely new skill outside your main class, knowing you will fail. If you are a mental class, do a physical workout. If you are physical, try something creative. The goal isn't to be good, the goal is to survive looking foolish. The reward, +25 resilience, unlocks the beginner's mind. Quest 6. Identify an NPC guide. The mission. No protagonist navigates the map alone. You need a guide who has already unlocked the higher tier nodes. The action. Identify one person who represents a piece of your endgame build. Read their book, consume their content, or reach out to them directly. The reward unlocks early access to advanced strategies. The walkthrough, strategizing your playthrough. Looking at a quest board can still feel intimidating. Here is the strategy guide for tackling Phase 2. If you have free time but no money, start with Quest 3, the XP Audit. It costs nothing but attention. By the end of Day 3, you will be shocked at how much hidden time you actually have to invest in your skill tree. If you are terrified of looking stupid, attack Quest 5, Ego Death, immediately in a low-stakes sandbox. Go to a beginner yoga class in a town where no one knows you, or fumble with a new software program alone in your room. Remember, missing the target in the tutorial zone doesn't deplete your health bar, it just builds your resilience stat. Every master you look up to started by staring at their hands and feeling completely lost. Clear the board, bank the XP. Phase 3, the Story Gate. System Codex, Entry 005. Warning, you are approaching a fog gate. The open world remains locked until the avatar proves sustained consistency. Prepare for the first mini-boss. You've cleared your inventory, logged your time, upgraded your gear, and taken your first ego hits. You know how the controls work. But in any RPG, knowing the controls isn't enough to leave the tutorial zone. You have to prove you can execute them under pressure. It is time to face the gatekeeper. Quest 7, the first mini-boss, the 30-day commitment. The mission: prove that you can sustain a grind when the initial excitement fades. Motivation is a temporary buff. Discipline is a permanent stat. The action: pick one active skill relevant to your endgame build. Commit to practicing it for 30 consecutive days. No skipping weekends, no negotiating with yourself. If your goal is to be a writer, write 500 words a day. If your goal is the physical branch, execute 30 days of deliberate movement. It doesn't have to be a 4-hour grind, it just has to be consistent. The reward: you officially leave the early game. You prove to yourself that you have the grit to finish the campaign. Defeating the boss, the reality of the grind. Around day 12 of this quest, the initial dopamine of starting a new game will wear off. Your brain will try to convince you that skipping just one day won't hurt your XP. This is the boss's second phase. When that resistance hits, rely on the save point routine you established in Quest 2. Use the friction-free environment you built in Quest 1. Lower your head, press the button, and land the hit. When you cross day 30, something profound happens in your internal UI. You stop viewing yourself as someone who is trying to change. You view yourself as a player who is actively leveling up. You beat the mini-boss. The fog gate dissolves. Welcome to the open world. Transitioning to the open world. System Codex, Entry 006, Tutorial complete. Entering the open world. Enemy scaling has increased. Baseline hardware optimization is now mandatory for survival. You are out of the safe zone. You have the momentum and the mindset to start allocating major skill points. But before you start attacking master-level technical skills or trying to lead a guild, we have to talk about your hardware. If you step into the open world with a broken physical baseline, the environment will crush your avatar. You cannot execute complex creative spells or navigate intense social dialogue trees if your body is running on 3 hours of sleep, toxic fuel, and 0 cardiovascular endurance. The next phase of your playthrough isn't about getting shredded for a magazine cover. It is about bulletproofing the vessel that carries your stats. It is time to dig into the dirt. It is time to build the roots. Chapter 3, The Roots, Building Base Vitality. System Codex, Entry: 007. Hardware diagnostic initiated. Warning: running next-generation software on a compromised physical console will result in a system crash. To access high-level skill trees, the avatar must first clear all biological debuffs. Welcome to the dirt. Before we talk about mastering a trade, launching a business, or becoming a charismatic leader, we have to talk about your hardware. All of those advanced skills are just software, and the brutal reality of this game is that you cannot outthink a biological deficit. If you are chronically sleep-deprived, fueled by garbage, and entirely sedentary, your avatar is walking around with a permanent fatigue debuff. No amount of motivational podcasts or productivity hacks will fix a depleted health bar. If the hardware is overheating, the software crashes. To build a skill tree that doesn't topple over under the weight of its own branches, you must establish your roots. Level 1. Managing status effects. In an RPG, if your character is poisoned, you don't send them into a boss fight. You cure the poison. If they are exhausted, you don't teach them a new spell. You send them to the inn. You have to clear the negative status effects before you can add any positive buffs. Node 1. The Campfire Recovery. In gaming, sitting at a campfire or renting a room at an inn restores your HP and mana. In life, it's sleep. Sleep is not a time machine that simply fast-forwards you to tomorrow. It is the most critical biological mechanic for banking the XP you earn today and resetting your stamina bar. The debuff. Scrolling on a screen in bed suppresses melatonin, your sleep signal, and applies a brain fog debuff that carries over into the next day. The unlock. Establish a non-negotiable 7 to 8 hour sleep window. Leave your phone across the room. The perk. Maximum HP restored daily. Total immunity to the afternoon crash. Node 2. Core fuel, hydration, and base nutrition. You cannot run a high-performance engine on corrupted fuel. Processed foods and chronic dehydration act like a low-level poison, slowly draining your vitality stat over time. The debuff. Consuming excessive sugar or alcohol applies a sluggish debuff, actively lowering your willpower and making you highly susceptible to frustration. The unlock. Drink a baseline amount of water daily, and eliminate one major dietary debuff, for example, cutting out liquid calories or late-night sugar. The perk, plus 10 to daily energy reserves. Node 3, kinetic baseline, the stamina tank. This isn't about becoming an elite bodybuilder. It is about expanding the size of your overall stamina bar, so you have energy left for side quests after your 9-to-5 main quest. The unlock. A minimum of 150 minutes of intentional, heart rate elevating movement per week. The perk. Upgrades the avatar's cardiovascular engine, increasing blood flow and oxygenation to the brain, which directly buffs your problem-solving logic. Level 2. Upgrading armor and durability. Once your base vitality is stable and the debuffs are cleared, you can stop just surviving and start building armor. A tree needs strong, deep roots to grip the soil against the wind. Your avatar needs physical durability to withstand the heavy hits of a high-stress life. Node 4. Load-bearing, strength and resistance. Gravity is a constant environmental hazard. If you do not actively build physical strength, your skeletal system and joints will slowly take damage over time, especially if your primary class involves sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. The unlock. Consistent resistance training to the point of muscle fatigue. This can be lifting weights, body weight calisthenics, or heavy physical labor. The perk, plus 15 to armor rating. Bulletproofs the joints, permanently upgrades posture, and reduces the risk of physical injury. Node 5. Impact tolerance, grit. This is the ability to take a physical or environmental hit without the system crashing. When you intentionally expose your avatar to physical discomfort, you are actively training your brain not to panic when things go wrong in the real world. The unlock: intentional, controlled physical stress. This could be martial arts sparring, grueling endurance runs, or cold exposure therapy. The perk: unlocks the adrenaline control passive skill. When a high-stress emergency happens at work or at home, your avatar's heart rate stays steady because you have already trained it to survive under pressure. The hardware translation: by forcing your physical avatar to adapt to heavy loads and impact, you aren't just getting in shape, you are permanently upgrading the hardware that runs your brain. The mental and creative tasks you want to tackle later will be significantly easier because your avatar is fully optimized. Level 3. Mastery and Efficiency. System Codex. Entry: 008 Advanced Biometric Controls unlocked. The avatar can now manually override autonomic stress responses. Mastery of the physical root system provides permanent passive buffs to all future cognitive processing. Once your avatar has a deep stamina pool and structural armor, you reach the master tier of the physical skill tree. This level isn't about pushing harder or lifting heavier. It is about extreme efficiency. It is the ability to manually hack your own nervous system to remain perfectly calm in hostile environments. Node 6. System Regulation, the Manual Override. In high-level gameplay, you don't wait until the boss battle is over to heal. You learn to regenerate while actively taking fire. When the real world hits you with a massive stressor, your heart rate spikes and your breathing becomes shallow. This is an autonomic response, but you can override it using tree breathing. Most players believe that to live is to constantly burn. But oxygen is the ultimate biological paradox. It fuels our fire, yet it rusts our armor. Left unchecked, the continuous rush of panicked breathing creates free radicals, oxidizing our bodies from the inside out, much like a damp autumn rusts a forgotten blade. To master the breath is to master the clock of aging. Within us there are 4 seasons to that life-giving wood. Handbook page: tree breathing, the 4 seasons protocol. Skill tree: the roots, node, system regulation, codex entry. You cannot buff your way out of a debuff. If you are entering a high-stress PvP arena, a negotiation, a boss battle, an argument, run the tree-breathing protocol first to clear the cortisol debuff before you attempt to use any logic or charisma skills. 1. Spring. Inhale. The kindling. Breathe in slowly and deeply through your nose for 3 to 6 seconds, expanding your stomach. You are creating a low-pressure vacuum, allowing the atmosphere to rush in and preparing the internal engine to fire up. 2. Summer. Hold full. The peak engine. Keep your lungs full for 3 to 6 seconds. Do not clamp shut. Gently pause the flow of air. Carbon dioxide gently builds up, acting as a molecular key. The Bohr effect, to force red blood cells to drop their oxygen cargo, unleashing energy into your brain. 3. Fall. Exhale. The clearing. Slowly release the air through your mouth for 3 to 6 seconds. As you mimic the tree shedding its dead leaves, you push out cellular debris and flush away tension with every millimeter your chest collapses. 4. Winter. Hold empty. The preservation. Hold your lungs completely empty for 3 to 6 seconds. Silence the amygdala before the next cycle. The lack of stretch in your lungs heavily engages the vagus nerve, your biological brake pedal, instantly slowing your heart rate. Node 7. Somatic awareness, the early warning system. In a video game, the edges of your screen pulse red when your health drops to a critical level. In real life, your body sends those same signals: a clenched jaw, shallow breathing, or tension in your shoulders. But most players ignore them until the system completely crashes. Somatic awareness turns your internal HUD back on. The unlock, sustained mind-body practice, such as advanced yoga, deep meditation, or flow-state athletics, which forces you to scan your physical form for tension. The perk, plus 20 to reflexes and early warning detection. You notice the physical symptoms of burnout or anger before you say the wrong thing or make a tactical error. The synergy effect, hardware meets software. By maxing out the roots, you aren't just building a healthy body. You are permanently upgrading the motherboard that runs your brain. This is where the RPG mechanics of your life begin to synergize. Imagine combining the explosive, aggressive energy of a combat sport, spending stamina, with the intentional breathwork of yoga, recharging stamina. You build an avatar that can flip the switch between intense output and deep recovery at will. When you combine base vitality from the roots with the high-level logic and problem-solving you will learn in the next chapter, you unlock the ultimate synergy perk, unbreakable composure. You can stand in the middle of a chaotic, high-stakes situation, a massive system failure at work, a heated argument, or a tight deadline, and remain perfectly calm. Your body handles the stress without releasing panic-inducing cortisol, leaving your brain completely free to systematically process the solution. Your roots are deep. Your avatar is durable, energized, and regulated. It is time to build the operating system. Chapter 4. The Trunk, your internal operating system. System Codex. Entry 009. Operating system installation initiated. Raw hardware vitality is insufficient without structural logic. The trunk acts as the central processing hub, dictating resource allocation and executing complex problem-solving protocols. Your roots are firmly planted, the hardware is optimized, your health bar is full, and you have the stamina to actually play the game. Now it is time to install the operating system. In a tree, the trunk is the sturdy central conduit that transports nutrients from the dirt up to the highest leaves. In your skill tree, the trunk represents your universal core competencies. These are the heavy, transferable skills that support every single specific career, relationship, or hobby you will ever pursue. You cannot specialize effectively without leveling these up first. A level 50 musician and a level 50 electrician have completely different specialized branches, but they rely on the exact same trunk: the ability to manage their time, troubleshoot failures, and process information. If you skip the trunk, your branches will snap under pressure. Level 1. The Action Economy, Time Management. In turn-based RPGs, players are strictly bound by the action economy. On your turn, you only get a finite amount of action points, AP. You might get one major action, casting a massive spell, and one minor action, drinking a health potion. If you waste your major action hitting a low-level enemy that isn't a threat, you leave yourself completely exposed to the boss. Time and attention are your real-world action points. They are fiercely finite. Node 1. Activating the HUD, Interface Management. Most players operate in a state of permanent reaction. They wake up, look at their phone, and let the notifications dictate how they spend their action points, AP, for the rest of the day. The debuff: overwhelmed. When your interface is cluttered with unorganized tasks, your brain constantly runs background anxiety loops, rapidly draining your mental mana. The unlock: implement a rigid calendar system. Treat your daily energy like a budget. Block out specific times for your main quests, deep, focused work. And quarantine your side quests, emails, chores, scrolling, to specific low-energy windows. The perk unlocks predictability. You completely remove the overwhelm debuff because you know exactly how your action points are being spent before the day even begins. The golden rule of the action economy: never spend a major action point on a minor side quest. If your brain is sharpest at 9 a.m., do not spend that premium processing power arguing with an NPC in a comment section. Handbook page: the action economy. Skill tree: the trunk. Node: interface management. Codex entry: time is not a flowing river, it is a finite currency. Every time you wake up, your action points, AP, are fully restored. If you let NPCs dictate how you spend them, your main quest will fail. The AP budget. You receive a limited number of actions per daily cycle. Do not spend major actions on minor quests. Actions can be divided into 4 categories based on how much energy they require and whether they move you forward or drain your reserves. Major actions require a high action point cost. These are demanding tasks that require sustained focus, physical effort, or both. Writing a chapter, completing a 60-minute workout, or repairing an engine all count as major actions. Minor actions require a much lower action point cost. They are the maintenance and administrative tasks that keep your life functioning. Checking your email, doing laundry, paying bills, or sending a quick response are all examples of minor actions. Passive actions require little to no additional action points because they happen alongside something you were already doing. Listening to an audiobook during your commute is a good example. The drive still happens, but you gain knowledge without needing to set aside a separate block of energy. Finally, fatigue drains operate in the opposite direction. Instead of costing action points to produce something valuable, they consume energy without giving you a meaningful return. Doom scrolling, repeatedly checking notifications, or arguing in comment sections can leave you mentally exhausted while accomplishing nothing. Equip this skill, daily loadout. The night before. Write down your one major action for tomorrow. This is your main quest. The morning. Protect your main quest. Put your phone in another room until the major action is complete. The afternoon. Spend your remaining AP batching your minor actions, emails, chores, into one focused hour. Level 2. The diagnostic protocol, troubleshooting. Every great game features puzzle rooms where brute force will get your character killed. You cannot just swing your sword at a locked door. You have to stop, analyze the environment, isolate the moving parts, and figure out the sequence to unlock the path forward. This is the core competency of troubleshooting. Whether you are trying to fix a broken car engine, a failing marketing campaign, or a stalled fitness routine, the mechanic is exactly the same. When a system breaks, amateurs panic. They get emotional, throw their tools, and try to change every single variable at once. Masters run the diagnostic protocol. Node 2. The logic engine, scientific troubleshooting. Math and science aren't just academic subjects, they are the universal languages of structural logic. Upgrading this node means learning to look at massive, intimidating obstacles and deconstructing them into small, manageable lines of code. The unlock. When a failure occurs, execute the troubleshooting protocol strictly without emotion. Observe the failure, isolate a single variable, and test it. The perk unlocks the analytical eye passive buff. You stop treating the surface-level symptoms and immediately identify the root cause of an issue. Handbook page, the diagnostic protocol. Skill tree, the trunk. Node, scientific troubleshooting. Codex entry. When a system crashes, amateurs rely on emotion and brute force. Masters rely on isolation. Do not swing your sword at a locked door. Examine the lock. The troubleshooting sequence. Execute this protocol whenever you encounter a failed project, a stalled fitness routine, or a broken mechanical system. Misordering these steps causes compounding errors. 1. Deactivate ego. Observe. Step back from the failure. The broken system is not a reflection of your worth. Observe the error code objectively without taking it personally. 2. Isolate the variables. Identify all the moving parts. If your marketing campaign failed, the variables are the ad copy, the image, the audience, and the budget. 3. Test a single variable. Change exactly one thing. If you change the ad copy, the image, and the budget all at once, you will never know which one actually fixed or worsened the problem. 4. Save or revert. Run the system again. If the fix works, hit Save, standardize the new process. If it fails, revert the variable back to its original state and test the next one. Mastering the action economy ensures you have the time to face big problems. Mastering the diagnostic protocol ensures those problems don't break your avatar. But a single-player game can only take you so far. To truly scale your impact, you have to learn how to interact with the rest of the server. Level 3. Mastering the dialogue tree. Communication. System, Codex, Entry, 010. Multiplayer protocols engaged. A fully optimized solo build cannot complete Master Tier raids alone. The avatar must initiate dialogue trees to recruit party members, bypass gatekeepers, and exchange resources. You can have a perfect action economy and flawless diagnostic logic, but if you cannot communicate those solutions to other players, your impact is hard-capped. Communication is the highest leverage skill in the game. In an RPG, when you interact with an NPC, non-player character, the game pauses and presents you with a dialogue tree. You choose your response from a list of options. Choosing the aggressive option might start an unnecessary fight, while choosing the empathetic option might bypass the fight entirely, unlock a hidden quest, and earn you a new ally. To master the real-world dialogue tree, you have to upgrade 2 distinct communication nodes, inbound and outbound. Node 3, perception checks, inbound processing. Most players do not actually listen. They just wait for their turn to speak. This is the equivalent of skipping all the cutscenes and dialogue text, then wondering why you don't know what the mission objective is. The unlock, active listening. When engaging an NPC or party member, you must fully process their dialogue before preloading your response. This involves reading nonverbal cues, decoding their body language, tone, and facial expressions before you speak. The perk, the empathy buff. You build immediate trust and avoid the massive misunderstanding debuffs that plague personal and professional relationships. Node 4. Speech checks, outbound execution. Having a massive vocabulary is useless if you use it to confuse people. True outbound mastery is the ability to translate complex, high-level thoughts into plain, accessible language without triggering hostility. The unlock, clear, direct communication. Practice expressing your exact thoughts, needs, and boundaries respectfully. If a project is failing, do not use passive-aggressive hints. State the diagnostic reality clearly. The perk, the silver tongue, passive, grants massive bonuses to negotiation, de-escalation, and leadership. You learn how to say no to a side quest without burning the bridge with the quest giver. Handbook page, the lexicon grind. Skill tree, the trunk, node, speech checks and vocabulary. Codex entry. You cannot express a complex thought if you do not have the vocabulary to build it. Words are the coding language of the human brain. The larger the vocabulary, the more precise your avatar's thoughts and communication become. The completionist quest, A to Z. In gaming, there are always hardcore players who decide to max out a specific stat by grinding out the longest, most repetitive task imaginable, like mining thousands of iron ores just to get their crafting level to 100. Reading the dictionary from A to Z, or even just A to C to start, is the real-world equivalent of grinding for the ultimate intelligence buff. It is a grueling test of patience and discipline, but it guarantees that when you speak, you have the exact right tool for the job. The casual quest, the source code. You might burn out reading raw dictionary pages, but you can still earn massive XP in this node by studying Latin and Greek root words. Learning root words is like learning the source code of the English language. Once you know the root, you can decipher hundreds of other words instantly. Equip this skill. Commit to a daily vocabulary grind. Whether you read one page of the dictionary a day or subscribe to a word of the day module, this daily rep unlocks the silver tongue passive buff, granting massive bonuses to persuasion, reading comprehension, and the ability to articulate complex emotions without frustration. Level 4. The meta skill, learning how to learn. System Codex, entry 011. XP multiplier acquired. The meta skill bypasses standard progression limits. By understanding the underlying architecture of skill acquisition, the avatar drastically reduces the time required to complete future tutorial zones. This is the ultimate trunk competency. Up until now, you have been learning what to do. This node is about learning how to learn. Metacognition is the ability to step outside of yourself and think about your own thinking. Instead of just memorizing the rules of one specific subject, you learn the universal source code of how the human brain acquires new mechanics. If you equip this skill, you permanently boost the XP yield of every future action you take. Node 5, System Overclocking, the XP Multiplier. Amateurs stare at a massive new skill, like learning a new language, mastering a digital audio workstation, or understanding tax law, and feel completely overwhelmed by the scale of it. Masters do not see one massive skill. They see a collection of micro-skills stacked on top of each other. The unlock. To activate the meta skill, you must learn to deconstruct the intimidating whole into its smallest manageable parts. Practice them in isolation, and then, crucially, teach those parts to someone else. Teaching forces you to strip away the jargon and proves you actually understand the core mechanics. The perk applies a permanent XP multiplier to all future skills across the entire tree. You learn faster, unlearn bad habits quicker, and adapt to new metas before the rest of the server even reads the patch notes. Your trunk is solid. You have the structural logic to manage your time, troubleshoot your failures, communicate your vision, and rapidly absorb new information. The mandatory tutorial is officially over. You have the exact hardware and operating system required to support a massive, specialized canopy. It is time to enter the character selection screen and choose your class. Chapter 5, The Branches, Escaping Build Paralysis. System Codex, entry 012, class selection screen unlocked. Warning, lingering on this screen causes build paralysis. The system notes that passion is not a pre-installed trait. It is an endgame buff generated by sustained competence. Select a path and begin grinding. the mandatory tutorial is over. Your roots are solid and your trunk can support heavy weight. Now the game opens up. This is the character selection screen. It is time to decide what your avatar is actually going to do in the open world. In an RPG, this is where you pick your starting class. Are you going to play the frontline warrior, the tactical mage, or the resourceful rogue? In real life, this is where you choose your career, your primary disciplines, and your major passions. But for most players, the character selection screen is a nightmare. Escaping build paralysis, the passion myth. Society has infected the player base with a massive cognitive debuff called the passion myth. We are told from a young age that everyone has one single predestined passion out there, and the goal of life is to wander the map until you magically discover it. If you choose the wrong career or the wrong major, you've ruined your playthrough. This creates terrifying build paralysis. Players become so afraid of spending their skill points in the wrong branch that they don't spend them at all. They stay stuck at level 1, waiting for a divine spark of motivation to tell them what to do. Let's patch this glitch right now. Passion isn't something you find, it is something you forge. In a video game, you don't agonize for years over whether to play a rogue or a mage. You pick the one that looks interesting and press start. If you spend 100 hours exploring the woodworking branch or the coding branch and decide you hate it, that wasn't wasted time. Because you already built your trunk, you get to keep all the underlying XP you earned. The problem solving, the work ethic, the communication skills. You simply take those stats and reallocate them into a new branch. Competence breeds passion, not the other way around. Once you get good at something, it becomes fun. Drop the anxiety, pick a direction. The 4 primary archetypes. To help you categorize your interests, the skill tree is divided into 4 broad archetypes. Look at these classes and decide where you want to allocate your main skill points. 1. The maker, creators, and builders. The playstyle. Makers pull raw resources from the world and turn them into something tangible. They are driven by the physical or digital manifestation of their ideas. Real-world branches: engineering, software development, writing, construction, music production, traditional arts, and trades. The main quest. I want to look at something that didn't exist yesterday and say, I built that. 2. The optimizer, leaders and merchants. The play style. Optimizers look at existing systems and figure out how to make them run faster, scale larger, or generate more resources. They thrive on efficiency, strategy, and exchange. Real-world branches: business, finance, logistics, entrepreneurship, marketing, and management. The main quest. I want to build a system that multiplies the efforts of everyone involved. 3. The guardian, healers, and protectors. The play style. Guardians are driven by maintaining the party's health, elevating others, and defending the community. They are the backbone of the multiplayer experience. Real-world branches: medicine, parenting, teaching, coaching, social work, and first responders. The main quest. I want to ensure my party survives the raid and leaves stronger than they arrived. 4. The scholar, explorers, and researchers. The playstyle. Scholars are obsessed with clearing the fog of war. They want to acquire hidden knowledge, understand the deepest lore of the game, and map out the unknown. Real-world branches: science, academia, philosophy, investigative journalism, and deep-dive historical hobbies. The main quest. I want to figure out exactly how the universe's code is written. The T-shaped player, the versatility build. You do not have to pick just one. In fact, if you want to survive the modern meta, you shouldn't. If you only max out the Maker branch, let's say you are a masterful level 50 painter, but you put absolutely 0 points into the Optimizer branch, business, marketing, negotiation, you become a starving artist. You have incredible gear, but you don't know how to trade it. The most successful players use a T-shaped versatility build. The vertical line of the T is your primary class. This is the branch you grind deep into the master levels. But the horizontal line of the T represents the points you strategically spend multi-classing into the other archetypes to round out your avatar and protect yourself from market shifts. The radius of influence, testing your branches. In almost every RPG, you don't test your newly unlocked skills in the most dangerous parts of the map right away. You test them in the starting village where the NPCs are friendly and the stakes are low. Now that you have chosen a branch and started communicating your goals, you need a safe progression system for practicing your new outward-facing skills. Zone 1. The safe haven, the inner circle. Spouses, partners, closest friends, or immediate household members. This is the ultimate low-stakes sandbox. Because these people already love and accept your avatar, a failed dialogue check isn't fatal. Build basic muscle memory here. Zone 2. The neutral settlements, extended network. Extended family, larger friend groups, and familiar acquaintances. The stakes are slightly higher. You practice maintaining clear communication and boundaries when multiple personalities are clashing. Zone 3. The open world, the public. The workplace, the grocery store, public spaces. The safety net is gone. These NPCs have their own objectives. Practicing your nonverbal cues and basic self-presentation is vital here because first impressions dictate the entire interaction. Zone 4. The PvP arena. Conflict. Rivals, hostile strangers, or anyone actively challenging you. This is the ultimate boss battle for your social branches. Can you de-escalate a hostile situation and seek a compromise without your internal system crashing? You have chosen your class. You know your archetype. Now it is time to zoom all the way in. It is time to look at the daily, actionable micro-skills that actually make the branches grow. Chapter 6. The Leaves, Skill Stacking and Synergy Perks. System Codex. Entry 013. Micro-skill integration active. Executing a single command repeatedly yields diminishing returns. To maximize damage output and utility, the avatar must string together discrete actions. Skill stacking protocols engaged. You have chosen your primary branch. You know what class you are playing. But you don't level up a branch by just staring at it. You level it up by growing the leaves. If the branch is the broad category, for example, music production or accounting, the leaves are the hyper-specific, actionable micro-skills that make up that branch. You cannot practice music production. You can practice manipulating sound in a digital audio workstation, dialing in the perfect EQ on a drum break, or programming MIDI chords. Leaves are the daily, granular actions you take. On their own, they are just tools. But when you learn how to stack them together, you unlock the most powerful mechanic in the game. The 1% myth versus the 25% rule. Society pushes a dangerous narrative. To win the game, you have to be in the top 1% of your chosen field. You have to be the absolute best programmer, the greatest athlete, or the most brilliant writer. Mathematically, hitting the top 1% in a single saturated category is a brutal, exhausting grind with a massive failure rate. It is a highly competitive PvP, player versus player, arena where everyone is spamming the exact same move. But there is a cheat code: skill stacking. In gaming, this is called a combo attack. Instead of relying on one massive, slow attack, you string together a fast sequence of smaller moves that combine for devastating damage. You do not need to be in the top 1% of a single skill to build an elite avatar. You just need to reach the top 25% in 3 different skills. Being in the top 25% means you are competent. You put in the hours, cleared the tutorial zone, and know what you are doing. It is highly achievable. But when you take 3 top 25% micro skills and stack them on top of each other, their intersection creates a synergy perk. You are no longer competing in the crowded 1% arena. You have created a completely unique class where you are the only player, equipping synergy perks, combo attacks. In an RPG, if you cast a water spell, the enemy gets wet. If you cast a lightning spell, the enemy takes shock damage. But if you cast a water spell and then a lightning spell, the wet enemy takes 300% amplified area of effect damage. That is a synergy perk. In life, combining unexpected micro skills creates an unfair market advantage. This is the ultimate expression of the versatility build. Here is what skill stacking looks like when you combine different branches and leaves. The Tech Founder Synergy. To build this, your first leaf in the Maker branch is back-end coding, where you are in the top 25%. Your second leaf in the Optimizer branch is business-to-business sales and cold emailing, also in the top 25%. Your third leaf in the trunk is public speaking. The combo: there are millions of coders better than you. There are millions of salespeople better than you. But the coder who can confidently pitch their own software to a room of investors. That avatar is incredibly rare and highly compensated. The Tactical Medic Synergy. Your first leaf in the Guardian branch is emergency medical response. Your second leaf in the Roots is physical endurance and breathwork. Your third leaf in the branches is conflict de-escalation. The combo: you aren't just a medical professional. You are an operator who can sprint into a chaotic, hostile environment, de-escalate a panicked crowd, and deliver life-saving care without your own heart rate spiking. The Storytelling Analyst Synergy. Your first leaf in the Scholar branch is data analytics and spreadsheet manipulation. Your second leaf in the Maker branch is graphic design. Your third leaf, in the trunk, is creative writing. The combo: data scientists often struggle to explain their findings. Graphic designers often lack hard data. But if you can pull raw numbers, design a beautiful infographic, and write a compelling narrative about what those numbers mean, you become the most valuable person in the boardroom. Let's look at a page from the handbook. The Synergy Calculator. Skill Tree. The Leaves. Node. Cross-class combo attacks. Codex entry. You do not need to be in the top 1% of a single skill to dominate the meta. Stacking 3 top 25% skills creates a category of 1. Synergy combos. Use this framework to identify how your current skills cross-pollinate to create high-value, rare builds. Here are 3 examples of what skill stacking looks like in practice. First, if your primary technical skill is audio engineering, your secondary skill is social media management, and your trunk competency is public speaking, you unlock the synergy of the media agency. Second, if your primary skill is in carpentry or the trades, your secondary skill is 3D modeling, and your trunk skill is business-to-business sales, you unlock the synergy of the design-build firm. Third, if your technical base is fitness coaching, your secondary hobby is videography, and your trunk skill is empathy and active listening, you unlock the synergy of the elite online coach. Finally, if your primary skill is culinary arts, your secondary skill is logistics, and your trunk competency is team management, you unlock the synergy of the executive chef. Equip this skill, the Crafter's Bench. Look at your current character sheet. What is your strongest level 50 skill? To unlock your next synergy perk, do not put more points into that skill. Instead, spend your next 10 action points learning a level 1 skill from a completely different branch that makes your main skill more marketable. The Sandbox Mindset. To unlock your own synergy perks, you have to spend time at the Crafter's Bench. This means actively looking for leaves that complement each other. If your build feels stagnant, look at your character sheet. If you have spent the last 5 years exclusively maxing out technical analytical skills, stop. Your returns are diminishing. Go spend your next 10 action points in the creative or social branches. Learn to paint, take an improv comedy class, or learn to negotiate. However, before you can master a new craft, you have to unlearn the idea that every action must have a financial or productive ROI, return on investment. You must enter the sandbox. In games, a sandbox mode gives you unlimited resources and no enemies, so you can just build. In life, this is the ability to try a hobby with zero expectation of being good at it. When you learn to play without pressure, you unlock the mental restoration passive buff. Your avatar's stress levels drop, and your stamina bar regenerates faster than standard sleep. Note: you can browse the full Sandbox Specializations menu in Appendix A to find your next creative outlet. You have planted the roots, built the trunk, chosen your branches, and stacked your leaves. You have survived the grind. It is time to test your build against the Gatekeeper. Chapter 7. The Boss Battle. Traversing the Fog Gate. System Codex Entry 015. Hostile entity detected. You have reached a skill tree Gatekeeper. Grinding low-level tasks yields diminishing returns. To access the next tier of progression, the avatar must pass a stress test. Prepare for combat. You have planted your roots, installed your trunk, chosen your branches, and stacked your leaves. You have spent hours at the Crafter's Bench and perfected your daily loop. Your build is optimized, but reading the manual and grinding in the safe zone isn't enough. In every great RPG, you cannot access the next tier of the map simply by killing level 1 enemies forever. Eventually, the game forces you to prove that you have mastered your current skills by placing a massive, intimidating obstacle in your path. You have to face a boss battle. A real-world boss battle is a high-pressure event that tests everything you have built. It is the major licensing exam. It is stepping onto the mat for your first martial arts tournament. It is pitching your startup to investors, having a make-or-break conversation to save a relationship, or finally launching the project you've been building in secret. Here is how you survive the fight. 1. The Fog Gate, the point of no return. In many action RPGs, boss arenas are blocked by a shimmering wall of fog. When you walk up to it, the game asks if you want to traverse the fog. Once you step through, the doors lock behind you. There is no backing out. You either win or you respawn. In real life, the Fog Gate is the moment of commitment. It is hitting publish on your website. It is signing the commercial lease. It is walking up to the microphone. Most players spend their entire lives pacing back and forth outside the Fog Gate, endlessly checking their inventory, telling themselves they just need to read one more tutorial or grind one more level before they are ready. You will never feel 100% ready. You have to learn to actively seek out these fog gates to force your own growth. When you see the fog, take a breath, rely on your base stats, and step through. Handbook page. The Tactical Pause. Skill Tree. Intrapersonal Mastery. Zone 0. Node. Visualization and Regulation. Codex Entry. In a high-pressure conflict, argument, or negotiation, the PvP arena, Zone 4, your brain's default setting is to treat the situation as an immediate survival threat. If you do not pause to visualize, you risk button mashing, reacting purely on impulse, adrenaline, or anger. The pre-fight mechanic, mental simulations. Elite players do not charge blindly through a fog gate. They stop at the threshold and run mental simulations. Anticipate the curveball. Mentally rehearse how you will respond to specific errors or aggressive dialogue before they happen. When the curveball inevitably arrives, you do not panic. You simply execute the response you already pre-programmed. The mid-battle sequence, the 4-step override. If you are caught off guard mid-battle, you must hit the pause button to freeze the action. Execute this exact sequence to regain your bearings. Step 1. Hit pause, system regulation. You cannot think strategically if your hardware is crashing. Take one slow, deliberate belly breath. This manual override of your autonomic nervous system drastically reduces your cool-down timer. Step 2. Check your status menu, internal inventory. Before looking at the enemy, look at your own character sheet. Run a quick somatic diagnostic. Are you reacting out of ego, exhaustion, or a fear debuff cast by the other person's hostility? Name the debuff to dispel it. Step 3. Rotate the camera, environmental scan. Once your internal UI is clear, look outward. Look past the loud volume or harsh words and read the field. What is this person's actual objective? Are they attacking you because they are toxic or because their own HP is critically low? Step 4. Open the dialogue tree. Select your move. Because you paused, you do not have to choose the default reactionary reply. Preview your options. Select the de-escalation node by setting a clear boundary or offering a compromise. 2. Phase 1. The execution, testing active skills. When the fight starts, the boss has a predictable pattern. This is where your avatar relies entirely on the leaves, the active skills you have been grinding. If you step into an interview, Phase 1 is delivering your rehearsed pitch. If you are running a marathon, it is executing your exact pacing strategy. If you are wiring a massive commercial panel, it is following the schematics you memorized. During Phase 1, you don't have to think. You just let the muscle memory take over. It is purely about doing what you trained to do in the tutorial zone. You land your hits, the boss's health bar drops, and you start to think, "I've got this." And then the boss's health bar turns red. 3. Phase 2. The curveball, testing passive skills. System Codex, entry 021. Hostile environment mutation detected. Amygdala hijack imminent. Panic status effect applied. Standard action points frozen. Avatar must execute a manual nervous system override before attempting to re-engage the target. Every gamer knows the panic of thinking the boss is defeated, only for a cinematic to play as the boss mutates into a faster, stronger, deadlier form. The patterns you memorized change completely. You have to improvise. In real life, Phase 2 is the curveball. The plan always breaks. The investor asks a brutal question you didn't prepare for. A sudden storm hits at mile 18 of the marathon. The client changes the scope of the project the day before launch. When the curveball hits, Phase 1 execution fails. You can no longer rely on your rehearsed muscle memory, your leaves. In that exact second, your biology turns against you. Your amygdala detects the threat and floods your system with cortisol. You are suddenly inflicted with a massive panic debuff. Your logic, the trunk, goes completely offline because your biological hardware, the roots, is preparing to fight a physical predator, not solve a complex problem. You cannot outthink this biological response. You must execute your tactical pause. The mid-battle dispel, executing tree breathing. You can execute this sequence in the 3 seconds it takes for the investor to finish their brutal question. Spring, the draw. Stop formulating an answer. Take a deliberate 3-second inhale to take the steering wheel away from your panic reflex. Summer, the pressure. Hold the breath. Let the Bohr effect physically feed your prefrontal cortex with oxygen. Fall, the release. Silently exhale, dropping your shoulders and physically dumping the muscular tension. Winter, the tactical pause. This is the moment you survive the boss. Hold your lungs empty. Command your vagus nerve to strike the brake pedal. The alarm is silenced. The empty freeze is not a surrender. It is a tactical reload. Your trunk comes back online. You absorb the hit, cleared the status effect, and are back on the offensive. 4. Phase 3. The respawn, reframing failure. System Codex entry 022. Critical failure detected. Avatar HP depleted. Initiating respawn protocol. System notice. A game over screen is an illusion. The avatar has lost the encounter, but the experience points, XP acquired during combat, have been permanently banked into the core system. Sometimes, despite a flawless action economy and perfectly executed tree breathing, the boss hits too hard. The curveball is too complex. Your health bar hits 0. You fail the exam, you freeze on stage, or the business goes under. Society treats these moments as a permanent game over, inflicting a massive shame debuff. Players feel so much shame that they uninstall the game and never try again. But in an RPG, dying to a boss is a core, highly engineered learning mechanic. You do not lose your character. You simply respawn back at your last save point. Failing a real-world boss battle is highly valuable reconnaissance, showing you exactly where your current build is vulnerable. The mechanic, reviewing the combat log. When you respawn, open your internal UI, Zone 0, Self-Reflection, and read the combat log to identify the failure point without ego. Did the roots fail? You panicked, and the amygdala hijacked your brain. Solution: grind tree breathing. Did the trunk fail? Your logic broke down or you mismanaged time under pressure. Solution: reevaluate action economy. Did the leaves fail? You lacked a specific micro skill or software knowledge. Solution: return to the crafter's bench. Here is the ultimate cheat code. You get to keep the XP. The hours spent preparing are permanently banked. The next time you traverse the fog gate, you are fighting as a higher-level avatar who knows exactly what the curveballs look like. The gardener's note, the reinvention loop, pruning. Sometimes a boss battle results in a massive, unavoidable loss. A company downsizes and your job vanishes. An injury forces you to abandon your athletic branch. A long-term relationship ends. In these moments, society tells you that you are starting over from 0. The system disagrees. A tree is not built just once. Just like the seasons, we go through periods where our leaves fall, or our massive branches are abruptly pruned. This is the reinvention loop. When a branch is severed, the tree does not die. It simply relies on the deep roots and the sturdy trunk it has already built to survive the winter. Because you did the work to optimize your baseline hardware and your processing logic, you still possess all your passive stats. You aren't level 1 anymore. The branch is gone, but the root system remains. You simply redirect your action points to grow a completely new branch when the spring returns. 5. Phase 4. The loot drop, the paradigm shift. System Codex, entry 023. Hostile entity defeated. Combat resolved. Calculating XP yield. Massive progression detected. Initiating loot distribution. Warning. Tangible loot is temporary. The permanent upgrade is the avatar's new baseline. You survived the Phase 2 curveball, patched your vulnerabilities, and landed the finishing blow. The intense combat music fades and the system flashes a massive XP reward across your internal HUD. This is the ultimate return on investment for your skill tree, harvesting the fruit. This endgame loot drops in 4 distinct categories. First are credentials. In an RPG, these act as your rare armor and keys. In the real world, these are your licenses, degrees, or certifications. Earning them unlocks new areas of the map and grants you authority over NPCs. Second are deliverables. These are your crafted legendary items. Whether it is a published book, a released product, or a signed contract, this loot provides tangible proof of your maker branch and builds your legacy. Third are biometrics. Think of these as permanent stat boosts. A lower resting heart rate and increased stamina physically increase your base vitality, reducing the daily damage you take from stress. Finally, there is the aura. This is the ultimate passive status effect. The quiet confidence and emotional regulation you have earned permanently dispel imposter syndrome and allow you to project true leadership. The tangible loot gives you immediate credibility, but it is a trap to think the gear is the real prize. The gear gets old. The true reward is the paradigm shift. When your avatar survives a massive, high-pressure encounter, your baseline stats are permanently altered. Daily stresses that used to terrify you at level 5 are laughable at level 20. Because you have defeated massive bosses, you emit a quiet, unshakable passive aura of competence. You now possess the undeniable, hard-coded proof that you won the fight. Chapter 8. The Fruit, Loot, Drops, and Mentorship. System Codex Entry 016. Endgame unlocked. Loot distribution initialized. Warning, hoarding endgame currency yields diminishing dopamine returns. True mastery is measured by passive area of effect buffs and server legacy. Initiate new game plus protocols. The boss disintegrates. The arena unlocks. The battle music fades and the screen flashes with your XP reward. You survived the tutorial zone. You planted deep roots, built a highly logical trunk, expanded your specialized branches, and stacked your leaves to unlock powerful synergy perks. You stepped through the fog gate and proved your build could survive under extreme pressure. You have put in the hours. Now it is time for the harvest. In the anatomy of a tree, the fruit is the final, visible result of all the invisible systems working together. It is the only part of the tree that the rest of the world actually consumes. In your skill tree, the fruit represents the ultimate return on investment for all your grinding. This is the endgame. Here is what a fully optimized max-level character build actually yields. 1. Boss drops, tangible loot. When you finally defeat a real-world boss, by passing a grueling licensing exam, launching your business, publishing your novel, or crossing the finish line of a marathon, the system grants you a boss drop. This is the tangible loot. It is the visible fruit that other players can see. Accreditations, earning a journeyman license, a master's degree, or a black belt. Deliverables, a successfully wired commercial building, a finished album streaming online, or a profitable quarterly earnings report. Life milestones, buying a house, achieving financial independence, or securing a massive promotion. The reality check. Tangible loot is incredible, but it gets consumed quickly. If your only goal in playing this game is to hoard gold and collect titles, the endgame gets very boring, very fast. Wealth and trophies are just inventory items. They do not change your base stats. The true reward of defeating a boss isn't the loot you pick up, it is the avatar you had to become to beat them. 2. Passive auras, intangible rewards. In multiplayer games, when a max-level character walks through a low-level zone, the low-level enemies don't even try to attack them. The master-tier player emits a passive aura that neutralizes threats and calms the environment. In real life, when you have built a massive, sturdy skill tree with deep roots, you emit the exact same aura. Because you have maxed out your physical vitality, roots, and your diagnostic problem-solving, trunk, you no longer panic when the meta changes. When the market crashes, when a project fails, or when a crisis hits your family, you do not lose your temper or spiral into anxiety. You project a quiet, calm competence that naturally attracts opportunities and allies to your party. The imposter syndrome dispel. Imposter syndrome is a debuff that happens when your current level doesn't match your job title. But when you have legitimately banked the XP, put in the hours and stacked your skills, imposter syndrome is permanently deleted from your code. You know exactly what you are capable of. Area of effect, AoE, buffs. Your aura doesn't just protect you, it buffs everyone around you. A regulated, capable leader automatically lowers the stress levels of their entire team simply by walking into the room. 3. Dropping seeds, the mentor level. What does a max-level player do when they have beaten the main campaign, collected all the legendary loot, and maxed out their stats? They play co-op. They go back to the starting village, find a level 1 player who is struggling with the controls, hand them a wooden sword, and show them how to survive the tutorial zone. A tree does not eat its own fruit. It drops it to feed the ecosystem, and inside that fruit are the seeds for the next generation of trees. The ultimate endgame of personal development isn't selfishness, it is legacy. If you use this book to build a powerful, wealthy, capable avatar, but you never share your XP with anyone else, you have failed the final quest. Once your canopy is fully grown, your job is to provide shade for the saplings. Mentorship. Take an apprentice under your wing. Teach them the meta skill. Save them hundreds of hours of grinding by warning them about the traps you fell into. Resource sharing. Use your optimizer skills to create jobs, fund creative projects, or build infrastructure for your community. Parenting and guild building. This is the most literal form of planting seeds. Passing down your highest level roots and trunk skills to ensure the next generation starts their playthrough with a massive advantage. System log off. Your character sheet is ready. The quest board is loaded. The mechanics of the game are fully exposed. You know exactly how to plant your roots, install your trunk, grow your branches, and harvest your fruit. The invisible grind is over. You are no longer an NPC in someone else's story. Close the manual, pick up the controller, press Start. Appendix A, the Sandbox Specializations menu. To unlock the mental restoration buff and discover new leaves for your synergy perks, you must spend time in the Sandbox. Use this menu to select a low-stakes hobby outside of your primary class. Do not monetize these. The goal is pure XP accumulation and stress reduction. Here are 5 sandboxes you can explore based on your build. First is the physical sandbox, which focuses on agility and stamina. You might try bouldering or rock climbing for intense physical puzzle solving. You could practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu or other martial arts for ego death and kinetic problem solving. Alternatively, use a flow rope or go rucking for low-impact, high-endurance cardiovascular repair, or practice yoga and mobility work for system regulation and somatic awareness. Second is the Maker Sandbox, dedicated to creative and tactile skills. This includes woodworking or carpentry for tactile creation and spatial geometry. You could explore digital audio production for pattern recognition and audio engineering. Other options include creative writing and world building for lexicon expansion and narrative structure, or miniature painting and model building for extreme focus and fine motor control. Third is the Optimizer Sandbox, focusing on strategy and exchange. You might try guild management or server hosting to practice leadership, delegation, and community organization without real-world risk. You could try low-stakes thrifting or flipping purely for the thrill of the trade, engage in fantasy sports or esports drafting for predictive modeling and risk assessment, or play economic board games to master complex resource management and turn-based action economies. Fourth is the Guardian Sandbox, built around community and healing. You could foster animals to build empathy and nonverbal communication. You might try youth coaching or mentorship to translate complex skills to low-level players. Other paths include community gardening or trail maintenance for environmental stewardship and physical restoration, or volunteering for first aid and search and rescue to practice high-pressure crisis management and party support. Finally, there is the Scholar Sandbox, designed for perception and memory. This includes using language acquisition apps to boost neural plasticity and cultural expansion. You could play chess or other strategy games to practice turn-based action economy and forecasting. You might engage in historical deep dives to understand the meta-narratives of human civilization, or take up amateur astronomy for perspective shifting and scientific observation. Appendix B, the Biological Codex. This is a quick reference guide for maintaining your roots and preventing hardware crashes. There are 5 core protocols. First is the sleep protocol, which governs your HP regeneration. The requirement is 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted rest. The mechanic is simple. Avoid screens for 60 minutes before sleep and keep the room cold, ideally between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The failure state for this protocol results in a brain fog debuff, diminished willpower, and compromised emotional regulation. Second is the hydration baseline, which protects your mana pool. The requirement is to drink water immediately upon waking to flush the system. The core mechanic is replacing processed sugars and liquid calories with water or zero-calorie electrolytes. If you neglect this, the failure state triggers chronic fatigue and false hunger signals. Third is the movement minimum, designed for stamina upgrades. The requirement is 150 minutes of intentional heart rate elevating movement each week. The mechanic involves lifting heavy objects for load bearing and pushing your cardiovascular engine to build impact tolerance. The failure state results in joint degradation, lethargy, and increased baseline anxiety. Fourth is the tree breathing protocol, which acts as your manual override. The requirement is to execute the 4-season cycle to clear the cortisol debuff during high-stress encounters. The mechanic works like this. Spring is a 4-second inhale through the nose to create a vacuum. Summer is a 4-second hold for oxygenation. Fall is a 4-second exhale through the mouth for release. Winter is a 4-second empty hold for vagus nerve activation. The failure state here is an amygdala hijack, inflicting the panic status effect and forcing you to react purely on impulse. Finally, there is somatic awareness, your early warning system. The requirement is a sustained mind-body practice, like advanced yoga, deep meditation, or flow state athletics. The mechanic is learning to manually scan your physical form to detect internal tension, clenched jaws, or shallow breathing before the system crashes. The failure state is missing these warning signals entirely, resulting in saying the wrong thing or making tactical errors due to unmanaged stress. Appendix C, the Master Character Sheet. This is your master character sheet. Its purpose is to establish your save point, and you should update it every time you clear a major boss battle. I highly recommend pausing the audio here, grabbing a pen and paper, or downloading the official printable sheet from skilltreeunlocked.com to fill this out. First, let's define your character. Write down your player name, your current level, which is your age, and your current class, meaning exactly who you are today. Then, define your endgame build. Who is your level 50 avatar? Next, audit your base stats, also known as the roots, on a scale from 1, being a critical warning, to 10, being master tier. Score your vitality, based on your sleep and joint health. Score your stamina, based on your energy and diet. Score your willpower, which is your frustration tolerance. And score your perception, measuring your focus and bandwidth. Then check your core competencies in the trunk. Ask yourself if you have consistently equipped these 4 skills. For your action economy, do you schedule your main quest and avoid wasting major action points on minor quests? For diagnostic logic, do you isolate variables when you fail instead of panicking? For inbound empathy, do you listen to fully understand, not just to reply? And for outbound execution, do you speak clearly, directly, and without passive aggression? Finally, use the synergy calculator to map your leaves. List your top 3 micro skills that sit in the top 25%. Identify your primary technical skill as Leaf 1, your secondary hobby skill as Leaf 2, and your communication trunk skill as Leaf 3. Look at how they combine and name the unique synergy perk you have unlocked to identify your true class advantage. Acknowledgments. No player clears a campaign of this size solo. My skill tree is a direct reflection of the incredible party members, guides, and co-op partners who shared their XP with me along the way. To my core party, my wife, Catherine Burks, and my sons, Jamichael, Jameer, and Jameson. Thank you for being my ultimate save point. You are the reason I grind, the reason I level up, and the strongest roots a player could ever ask for. To my gamer brother, Jared Burks, thank you for being my player too from the very beginning. To the master guides who taught me the mechanics of the game and helped me unlock my highest tier skills. My father, Jamie Burks, for setting the baseline. My yoga teacher, Aku Ausar Dennis, for teaching me breath and regulation. My band teacher, Mr. McCarthy, for teaching me harmony and expression. Master electrician Stephen, for teaching me the structural logic of the trade. And my MMA coach, Marlon, for teaching me grit, resilience, and how to take a hit. To the co-op team who helped me forge this specific manual, my mother, Dr. Kirsten Brown, and my sister, Kamala Burks. Your support and guidance brought this project out of the tutorial zone and into the open world. Finally, to my guild, my gamer friends and family, Jared, Pat, Ricky, Donnie, Sean, Andre, Braxton, and Zach. Thank you for the countless hours logged, the lobbies shared, and for reminding me that the game is always better when you play it together. Main quest complete. You have reached the end of the manual, but your campaign is just beginning. The fog of war has cleared, your HUD is online, and it is time to take your build into the open world. If this book helped you level up your stats, I have 2 final quests for you before you log off. 1. Drop a waypoint. Leave a review. In any multiplayer game, veteran players leave waypoints and messages to help guide new players safely through dangerous zones. The greatest loot you can drop for this book is an honest review on Amazon or Goodreads. Reviews are the algorithm's lifeblood. Your rating acts as a beacon, helping other players find this guide so they can stop grinding and start leveling up. 2. Join the guild, connect online. Do not play the rest of this game solo. Head over to my website to download printable versions of the master character sheet, access new Sandbox menus, and get the latest patch notes for your skill tree. Join the party at skilltreeunlocked.com. Follow my current playthrough on social media at General Jam the Jet. Now, close this book. Equip your skills. Press Start